how do you articulate that division from creating a policy to be able to, get this corporate buy-in of all the individuals to being able to ensure that all the players are following through, across the supply chain and across the organization? It's definitely a complicated feat, yeah.
It is. And like years ago, I would have thought that it was a win if just a handful of people within IT understood, the security concepts and the core fundamentals in terms of protecting your data assets, right? And then as the years progressed in my career, I realized, no, wait a second, it's all IT professionals need to have this understanding, right? But now I would say that we have progressed as a society and as this interconnected global network of suppliers and companies and consumers of products, that we all now need a basic literacy of IT risk and IT security and these concepts. And so when you're writing policy and when you're writing procedure, you need to recognize, kind of what is the basic skill level of the individuals that you're touching. You really do need to understand the credentials that your team has. Literally, do they have credentials to support their work in this field? And therefore they've got that baseline knowledge, and you build from that. Or are you teaching people the very fundamentals from the very beginning? And that would severely change the approach that you would end up taking. I know in my career, when I first started out in my career as an auditor, and we would give recommendations when we saw some gap in a particular practice. We would offer a solution that was the blue sky. Here's the perfect way of doing it, and it took not into consideration where the organization was maturity-wise, right? And so one of the most valuable tools that an organization can use as it endeavors to do this work is to understand where it is on the maturity scale, right? And think about it across, and I know we're using the term infrastructure in terms of critical infrastructure, but as an organization, think about how sophisticated is your policy? Do you even have one, number one? But is it complicated? Is it well understood? Is it easily accessible by all of the people who need to see it, including your suppliers? Your people, again, what is their skill level? How sophisticated are the systems that you're using to manage the process? Is it complicated? Do people understand the level of complication? And likewise, is there a methodology that you've adopted? There's several different, you've got your ISO framework, you've got several different frameworks, but do people understand that, and are they applying that? And so as you look to, it's important to understand where you are and where you're targeting. And certainly when it comes to your critical infrastructure, you're going to want to be targeting the world-class approach to protecting those assets, right? This is not the time for heroics. This is not the time for, oh, so-and-so has left the organization and now we don't know what to do. You really need to give some thought to where you are, where you want to go, and then take those baby steps to get there. But those are among the many recommendations that I can offer to help people understand that division of responsibility. Yeah.
To kind of turn it to Oren there, I'd really like to hear kind of both how your military experience forced you to communicate this risk and division accountability differently, because obviously young soldiers who don't have 20 years of risk experience process it differently, and how you kind of built buy-in. And then my second part of that question is, you've had almost 20 years in the private sector now, how that experience has changed your approach in communicating this risk and level of accountability to your employees.
Okay, first of all, to your second question, tomorrow we are going to go through the certification for ISO 27001 for the company. So I'm trying that the shoemaker won't go, barefoot. So we're doing it tomorrow. We need to renew the certification for the ISO. But anyway, you see the accountability, in not only in the military but in organization. At the end of the day, you have the CISO, or you have the one that is responsible for the information security of the organization. And when something happened, he needs to, provide the explanations. And so uh, I account him as the responsible for all the what's happening. And since he's the guy that at the end of the day, either the CEO or the chief of staff will come and say, okay, what happens here? So when you are a CISO, or when you are in charge of the cybersecurity of your company, yeah, you said, okay, I have my, either, in the military, I have soldiers that are usually youngsters, age of 18 to 21. None of them are, cybersecurity guys, and, they have a lot of other things to do. So what I would do, I would train them and educate them and give them some basic tools in order to for daily behavior, and how to act in the presence of the evolving networking and cyber attacks and so on. But you cannot rely on these guys, either employees or soldiers or whatever. In every organization, you your state of mind should be, okay, I need to give them the policy there. As Denise said, I need to give them the right policy. I need to make sure they understand it. I need to make sure they fulfill it. But I want to make sure that I have another tools in order to protect myself, in order to keep this policy. And I want to have the technology that will help me to do that.
Mhm.
Because, at the end of the day, we've met so many cases, what I call the internal threats. That sometimes some cyber attacks were initiated from the internal threats, from internal employee. Sometimes they doing it intentionally, sometimes without any intention, but they just forward some malicious code from somewhere and so on. And there's always the famous experiment that someone spread like USB devices in the parking lot of a company, and 80% of the people pick it up and put them in their computer, despite all the policies and despite everything.
Mhm.
And then when they make a better experiment that put a logo of IBM on this USB device, 94% pick them up and put them in their computer. And again, despite of all the policies and the enforcement and so on. But if you have additional technology that would block the USB port, or will scan the USB port, whatever is getting into there, then you have the both, the employees that,
Mhm.
some of them are really responsible, some of them you can trust, but some of them, unfortunately, some doing mistakes. But then you have the technology that can cover on all these events that might slip, because of, an error, mistake, or intention of
Mhm.
one of the employees. So that's the way I see it.